Nothing can every day, every day. Watch
And that was the Pylon Reenactment Society from Athens, Georgia, performing live in the KLX Performance Studio. They're also performing live tonight in San Francisco at the Brick and Mortar Music Hall. I think they're all done now, but we are going to have a chance to talk with Vanessa as they pack out and race into the city for tonight's show. So a big shout out to the Pylon Reenactment Society for making their way to the KLX Performance Studios. They really sounded great. Last track, another band from Athens, Georgia. That was the Method Actors from their EP Dancing Underneath, and the track was I. And I'm now joined in the studio here by Vanessa Briscoe-Hay, who you just heard singing live in our performance studio with the Pylon Reenactment Society. And she's joined by drummer Joe Rowe, also of the band Glands, and we're going to talk to them for a little while, and then they got to get going and get into the city for tonight's show at the Brick and Mortar Music Hall. So, hi, thanks for coming down.
Oh, it's our pleasure. You know, you actually spoke to both of us almost exactly 2 years ago from the Atlanta airport. Do you remember that?
I do remember that, yeah. We were in the food court.
That was the Atlanta air. I knew you were in an airport. I didn't know which airport. So you were just heading west when we spoke 2 years ago.
Yeah, we were, I think, flying to L.A.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
And so where were you last night? Are you on, what's the extent of the tour this time around?
Well, we're pretty rare birds, so we're only going out for 4 days. And this is one of them tonight on the West Coast. We haven't been here in 2 years. Let's see, the first night we were in Seattle, then last night we played in Sacramento. Tonight we're in San Francisco, and Sunday night we're playing Part-Time Punk's event at the Echoplex in Los Angeles.
Again, like you did a couple years back when you recorded the live EP.
Right.
The KXLU.
KXLU Michael Stock, and I think it's the longest running community program on that station. His Part-Time Punks.
It's another great station like KLX Berkeley, very much so, yeah. Kindred spirits with that station. So let's talk a little bit about, some of our listeners know the band Pylon, and some may be confused by the concept of Pylon Reenactment Society. And I had a thought recently thinking about the South, and I know they have Civil War reenactment groups. Is that sort of a spin on where that name came from?
It is. It was a joke, really, originally among Pylon members, the original Pylon. And one of our forays into getting back together, we were together 3 different times. We would joke at practice that we were the Pylon Historical Reenactment Society because we were having to relearn all of our stuff. Well, this was really just started out as a one-off thing. We were playing one show for something called Art Rocks Athens, and came together for that. And Joe wasn't with us at that point. It was another drummer. It's basically Casper and the Cookies behind me. Jason Neesmith, who's the guitarist, was the organizer for that event.
But I was at that show. I saw that 15-minute set. That's about what it was, right?
Yeah, 15, 20 minutes max. And so the next year they invited us back, but in the meantime, Gregory had hurt his shoulder and needed surgery. Jason went and got this brilliant drummer, Joe Rowe, to come aboard with us. He had been, I know, and he had been, playing with the Love Tractor reunion shows and all sorts of projects. And so I didn't really know him, but he got brought in. I think he had been in the past with Jason and Kay with Casper and the Cookies at one point as a drummer.
That's right, for a couple of years, yeah.
So Casper and the Cookies is still an ongoing effort as well?
They just stopped doing it very, very recently, but they've got one more record that they've started that they want to finish.
Okay.
And I think, they may already be doing a one-off reunion show in January, but we'll see.
Down in Athens, I presume.
Athens, right.
And how about your band, Joe, the Glands? Are you still doing anything?
No, unfortunately, no? Ross, the leader of the Glands, songwriter-singer, he passed away in 2016. So we've just put out New West Records, who is based in Nashville and Athens.
Sure.
We just re-released 2 records and put out a brand new record of unreleased material and a box set.
Oh, no kidding.
With all of the stuff on vinyl LP and a booklet.
Excellent. Well, we will have to get our hands on it if we don't already have it in our massive library behind you. So let's explore what happened since you were here 2 years ago. Have you done such reenactments between now and then?
Well, you could put it that way, but I think what we've done is we've actually morphed into a real band over time. The chemistry is there. Everyone's into it. It's not anything that's taken too much out of anybody's lives, that it isn't fun. So, we've played some festivals, and we played shows, and we opened for people, and, various things. And so we are now writing new material, and we just put out a single. Actually, what is today? The December 7th?
December 7th.
This is the street date for Revolver Records to issue our single. It'll be available digitally, and I think also in stores today. Messenger and Cliff Notes.
And those are new songs?
Yes, and we've written 2 more. And today, your listeners might not have realized that, but we played a brand new song in that set that's 2.5 weeks old, maybe 3 weeks by now.
Is that the Messenger song?
No, we played right before Messenger. Messenger was the last one.
Mm-hmm.
Compression.
Yeah, I didn't recognize that song, but I now have the handy playlist.
Oh!
Thanks to your bass player, Kay, who gave me this.
Yeah.
Who also sounded wonderful in the band. She's with Casper and the Cookies.
Yes, she's a strong songwriter, singer, plays bass. And she's also a trapeze artist, and she also has a full-time job.
Wow.
You want to get something done, ask somebody who's a busy person, right? Did your mom used to say that? Mine did.
I know the concept, yes. And I had one of those days today, actually. Fortunate to get here in the nick of time as you guys were about to play. So that's fantastic. So the concept of reenactment, we talked a little bit when we talked to you live here on 90.7 2 years ago about, whether you were a cover band or a reenactment band. And I went to see you live 2 years ago, and it really struck me as you described it as sort of a fresh approach to reinterpreting the music, almost in the sense like jazz standards are performed differently by all kinds of different artists. So the new players capture the essence of the material, but they really bring a different tone to the music, and it seems to have grown from that.
That's exactly what I was dreaming of doing. I mean, why do something if it's exactly like a record?
Sure.
I think the live performance for me is where it's at, what I truly enjoy. Well, besides a lot of other things, but that's one thing that I enjoy. Anyway, I didn't want it to be something stale and, some like sad kind of thing. This is a joyous thing to me. It's a very happy thing to be involved with. It's a positive thing, and I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to continue as long as I'm capable, and they want to, which who knows? It might be 2 months, it might be 3 years, but we're writing a new record.
We all have a lot of fun on stage, that's for sure. A lot of moving around, a lot of jumping around and dancing and smiles and yeah, we like to get a little silly sometimes, so we like to have fun with it.
Right, and our listeners, we're going to have another rare opportunity to see you guys live at the Brick and Mortar Music Hall tonight. What time are you going on?
Well, there are 2 other bands who are playing, Blank Square and Modern Dance, and I can't remember which goes first. He might have it in his thing, but I think, are you pulling it out?
Yeah, let's
All right.
see.
Are they touring with you, or are they just the local acts?
No.
Yeah, they're not touring with us. I don't know if they might both be local.
They're from this area.
Modern Dance at 9, Blank Square at 10, and we go on at 11.
Okay.
And all times they could be adjusted a little way, one way or the other.
Yeah, rock time.
Right. Well, you want to get there early anyway and see the opening acts and make sure you don't end up on the street. So I know you write new songs. Are you expanding the catalog of pylon material that you reinterpret or reenact?
Yes, we have since we've been here. Like one song we did today, like Look Alive. We didn't do that one before. It's nice to have Kay singing backing vocals with me on that. And that's the only song we actually do from Pylon's third official, like recording their what the hell was it? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say chain.
Chain.
But we play heavily from, I would say, Gyrate, and then we play quite a few songs from Chomp as well.
Mm-hmm.
But we're learning. But right now, we have expanded since then. But our focus a few months ago actually started gearing toward writing. You spend just as much energy learning another song as you do in writing one. You might even
actually more. I find spending more time learning someone else's song than writing something new usually. Mm-hmm. So
when we talked a couple years back, I think it was on your playlist then, and maybe again tonight, you talked about the song K, not your bass player, but the letter K, name of a song, which you told a story. I just listened to the interview again last night to freshen up, and you've mentioned that you guys were playing Scrabble. It was a Scrabble-based inspiration for that. Could you elaborate or retell that story?
Well, sure. I can't remember my exact words, so don't put me, in a court of law. But this is how it went. The bass player for the original Pylon, Michael Lahusky, and I kind of shared lyric writing duties. In the beginning, he was the main lyric writer. Then I started writing more and more. And then when we were working on this second album, Chomp, we realized that we needed to write some more lyrics. So one thing we did is we had a lyric writing session, and we were trying to come up with ways to write words. And one of them is we played a Scrabble game and then took the words from the game with how many points they were.
Mm-hmm.
I remember each one of us got 2 words, so we'd write like a couplet. And that's where the song came from. And
if you listen closely to the song, you hear most of those elements you just described. So it's kind of a brilliant backstory to it. You wouldn't think
and
otherwise.
And it's even crazier than that because the first time we played that live, we crashed and burned playing that song live. And it was like everybody got confused about where they were supposed to be and all of that. And at the end, we were like, oh my gosh, what did we just do? That was like the worst thing we've ever done. And we had some friends that we greatly respect their opinion. There was a guy poet named John C. Wright who lived in town, a major brain. He was like running up to us going, that is the best song you have ever done. And we were like, what, really? So we got a hold of a board tape and we listened to it. We went, that is pretty good, but it doesn't really make any sense. It took us like almost a month to learn that mistake. And so we went back to the tape, and the way the song goes is from that era.
Yeah, no, it has that, late 70s, early 80s kind of post-punk, era sound, if you will. It's a brilliant track. We really like it. We're talking to Vanessa Briscoe-Hay and Joe Rowe of the Pylon Reenactment Society here on KALX Berkeley. Again, they're playing tonight at the Brick and Mortar Music Hall. I know you don't have too much time, but for music history buffs out there, I mean, Pylon's a very influential act. A lot of young bands today still, like to play your material, are influenced by your material. And you were a relatively short-lived act, from like 79 to 83 when you first broke up.
Yes.
And the story in your interviews is that you weren't having fun anymore. Is that accurate as you look back on it now?
That's the elevator pitch for the story.
I see.
The longer story was we were just kind of, we were tourists in the land of rock and roll, and we had gotten somehow this professional booking agent in the New York area, and he had landed us some opening dates for U2 on their first North American tour. And so we did this, and it was a bad experience because nobody was there to see anybody but U2. And their audience wasn't really our audience. It's sort of like playing in front of God or something, I think the original Pylon drummer said. And so anyway, they came back and they actually offered us the opening on the entire tour. And we said no. And our booking agent was furious, I think, or at least upset, which I imagine, that's his job. I might be upset too. And he said, well, why are you in this business if you're not going to do shows like these? And we started going, well, why are we in this business? Why are we in this business? And so we'd made a pact at the very beginning. If it starts not being fun, we just don't want to do it anymore. And so we decided that we set a target date, December 1st, 1983 would be the last show. And that was our last show for a long time.
Yeah, like five years or so before.
Yeah, it was 88. I think we played together some, and then there was a lot of encouragement from bands like REM and the B-52s to come back. People will get you now. They'll understand this. And we were having fun. We made another record, the one that I couldn't remember the name of a minute ago, Chain. And we actually did a lot of arena dates with bands like REM, B-52s, and some others I can't remember right now. Did a lot of touring in places like Florida. And we had a good manager, and Randy one day just didn't want to do it anymore, and we couldn't talk him out of it. So
Randy Bereley, your original guitar player.
Yes, and you couldn't have the original Pylon without all four members. We couldn't just go, okay, we're going to get audition for guitarists, for Pylon guitarists, because you can't do that.
Especially with Randy, because his style was so unique. He came up with his own tuning that no one else really knew, and I think it was an accident. Is that correct?
It was. He and Michael have fallen into that as sort of, Randy wanted to do an art project, go to New York, play once, get written up in New York Rocker, and break up and disband. And they'd chosen instruments. Randy started out as a drummer, and Michael was a bass player, but they weren't getting very far with that combo. So then he moved over to guitar, and he came up with he thought it was the right tuning. But by the time he realized that he'd written so many songs, he couldn't go back, and learn how to play like a regular guitarist. He made it all up.
Well, it's a very unique sound, and I remember when we talked last, you explained how Jason, has studied closely Randy's style. He's not trying to reproduce it, but he does draw on it.
Yes, he is. I know he spent hours and hours and hours. I don't know how long, to get the feeling of it right.
Sure. And how about you, Joe? Did you have to study
Curtis, the drummer?
Curtis's style in the band?
Yeah, definitely. He has a really unique style also, and it took a while for me to adjust to his feel. Basically, it was the biggest thing. The way he did things, the way he did fills and stuff. And and he does a lot of what we call like boots and pants, the kick drum and the hi-hat. Can you do that? Kind of thing, which is a little difficult sometimes.
Sure.
Well, but now it's like second nature. We've been doing it for 3 years.
3 years. You've got it down, and it's a great rhythm section, U and K. So
Thank you.
So for our listeners that followed the old guys, Randy passed in 2009.
Yes.
And then Michael and Curtis are still going, but they're busy with their other lives and careers and not interested in the reenactment.
Yeah, but they've played with us a few times in Athens and Atlanta. They're behind us. It's not like I would do anything. If they went, this is making us kind of feel weird that you're going out and doing this, I would say, okay, that's it. Because that's my family, but this is my new family too.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you put out the Part-Time Punks live record, limited pressing. Is that still available, or is that...
I've got maybe 7 copies left out of 300, and I've got them with me. And I think that Revolver might have a few here in town that's available through Midheaven mail order, but Chunklet Bandcamp, they've been sold out for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe some of Revolvers come from returns, but I'm not sure.
Well, they sent us a copy here, so we have one in our library here.
Oh, nice. Let me see. He sent
Signed. Oh, no.
No, it's like that. Did they write that thing, clean lyrics on there or anything?
Well,
but they are.
I don't know.
No, you would never cuss.
I don't know if
Well,
you.
I did a little earlier. I said a bad word, sort of.
I don't know if you want to read it. The way it works here at the station, we have volunteers that review the music, and then other people can add their own comments. So for your amusement, that's
we'll have to take a picture of that.
That's what they had.
We'll have to take a picture and read it going over the bridge or whatever.
Yeah.
But thank you for sharing that. I hope there's I hope they don't hate us or anything.
No.
I don't think you'd show it to me though if they did.
Yeah, no.
Let's read it on the air, kind of like story time.
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
only kidding.
No, it's a favorable review, but everybody has their own spin on things, and so
Sure.
I mentioned that to you.
History is constantly being rewritten.
Yes. So when we talked,
and young people out there, it's going to be your world soon. Vote, okay?
Yeah.
I know most of the elections are over, but it's going to be your world soon. You're going to be the ones in charge, so go and vote.
Thank God.
How is the state of affairs down there in Georgia? I know it's a very hotly contested governor's race and all kinds of crazy stuff going on at the ballot boxes and whatnot.
Well, we're fighting really hard to turn Georgia blue.
Mm-hmm.
We almost did.
Yes.
But there's some statements made and trials going on and whatever about possible, things not being done correctly. And we'll see what that says. I was hoping that we would get some new people in to try to clean out some of that stuff. But at the very least, the person running for governor should have stepped aside from being Secretary of State, who was over the elections. A genius, it doesn't take a genius to know that. I mean, he should have just bowed out because it makes it look bad. I mean, that just shows, at the very least, not very good common sense.
Yes. The Fox running to be in charge of the hen house.
Yes. I thought you were going to say the Fox News, but I didn't think so. I was like, where are you going with this one?
We're done.
Yeah.
We're done. He's finished with us. But y'all can come and see us tonight. And if you want to talk to me for a minute, I will. I'll be there.
Yeah, I just handed you a piece of paper. I asked you to read this on the phone, and the phone broke up in the middle of it, so it didn't come across cleanly enough for a good play. So if you wouldn't mind reading that live again, we'll get a better recording.
This is Vanessa Briscoe Hay of the Pylon Reenactment Society, and you are listening to KALX Berkeley, California. This is not a reenactment.
Thank you, Vanessa Briscoe Hay. And Joe?
It's been our pleasure. Thank you.
Joe Rowe. And again, get out and see him live tonight at the Brick and Mortar Music Hall in San Francisco. They'll be going on about 11 o'clock tonight, so we look forward to that. I'll be out there myself, so we'll see you again tonight. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, that was fun. Thank you,
and
Charlie.
Here's one more.
Hang around.
One more track from...
Look, he's got our old records there. Did they give you a copy of our single?
The B-52s here on KALX Berkeley. You've tuned into the Charlie Barrick Show. Thanks again to the Pylon Reenactment Society for making their way to the basement studios here on Barrows Hall at the UC Berkeley campus. Listener-supported radio at 90.7 FM. Again, they're playing live tonight at the Brick and Mortar Music Hall, which brings me to a belated reading of the KALX entertainment calendar, because at 3:30, when it would have been read, we were listening to the Pylon Reenactment Society playing live in our performance studio. So we're going to do it right now at 4:18 p.m. It's Friday, December 7th. Here's what's happening in your live music venues performing tonight at 924 Gilman: Tunic, Sight, Throw Ups, and Laguna Speech. At Ashkenaz, Stu Allen and Mars Hotel. The back room has the Keller Sisters with Misner and Smith. At the Elbow Room, Jack London, the This White Light and the Primals. The Fox Theater has Bamba Esterario. At the Freight and Salvage, Hawktail with Dead Horses. At the New Parish, Killer Queens and Material Girl. The Octopus Literary Salon features Nathan Clevenger's Book of Exits with the Green Mitchell Trio. At the Starry Plow, the Joy Drops. Tonight at the UC Theater, P-Lo with All Black, Another Party Fam, and Jess Connolly. At the Uptown, the Odd Numbers, Flex Bronco, and the Rock and Roll Adventure Kids, along with Harriet. Tonight at Yoshi's, the David Benoit tribute to Charlie Brown. Now for the listings in San Francisco. At Adobe Books, Leticia Tsunami and Wobbly with Chris Brown, Efectos Humanos. Amnesia has Scott Hirsch, Lauren Barth, Laura Benitez, and The Heartache. At the August Hall is La Maitre. The Bill Graham Civic Auditorium has Gucci Mane, Smoke Perp, and Hoodrich Pablo Juan. At Biscuit Blues is Joe Louis Walker. Bottom of the Hill has Shad with Frack and Versol. At the Brick and Mortar Music Hall, as we've mentioned several times, the Pylon Reenactment Society opening our Blank Square and Modern Dance. At the Center for New Music is Andy Meyerson. The Elbow Room San Francisco has Amer Asu, Mahawam, Dav O'Makebeats, and Jose Abad. At the Fillmore, Little Steven and Disciples of Soul. At the Great American Music Hall, Pinback and Morricone Youth. Hotel Utah has Sierra McAllister with the Education Reform and the MMS Community. At the Independent is Pamela Parker and Sit Kitty Sit and Wyan Act. At the Lab, the Roscoe Mitchell Quartet. Tonight at Rickshaw Stop is Lapalux with Russell E. Butler, along with Idhaz and Rose Charami. At the SF Jazz Center is Jazz Mafia's Heaviest Feather. Slims has Me First and the Gimme Gimmes with Glitter Wizard and Isaac Rother and the Phantoms. And our last listing in San Francisco happening tonight at the Parkside, Doyle, the Memphis Murdermen, and Bloom. And that completes a late reading of the KALX Entertainment Calendar. Be read again tonight at 7:30 p.m. Public feature, public service of this radio station, KALX Berkeley. Charlie Barrick Show continues till 6. We're We're going to move from Athens, Georgia, and play some music from other parts of the country now. This one is from the Pacific Northwest. New group called Wildcat Rose, and we'll play one off their debut EP called Train to Mexico on KALX.